Hello and welcome. Today we are going to do day 2 of Advent of Code 2021, part 1. So this exercise is relatively simple. We get a list of values that for every line suggest a verb, which is forward, down, or up. Actually, it's an adverb, I think. And then an integer number, which is just how much an hypothetical submarine moves. So if we say for example forward 5, it means that the submarine goes 5 units. It's not important what a unit is. 5 on the right direction, essentially, or left, it doesn't matter. Then when we have up or down, the number after that means that the submarine is moving down of, for example, 7 units in this case, or for example up 4 units in this case. What we have to do is to follow the list of values and calculate the final position of the submarine in the two axes, which is the depth, so how much the submarine went down, and how much the submarine went forward. One thing to notice is that there is a forward, but there is no backward. For the rest, up and down are simply the depth, so we just have to increase the depth when we go down, and decrease it when we go up. The problem statement doesn't say anything about what happens if this value is negative, so we don't have to handle it. We just assume that the submarine can either go negative, so basically fly over the water, or simply we are not supposed to reach this condition at all. So let's go to our editor, and this time I'm going to again say if name equal main, sorry, wrong extension here, stupid German keyboard. Okay, if the name is equal main, we run. What we do, we open a file, so with open input and then day02.txt, because I already copied it in the folder as fr. I run part 1 by passing to this. Part 1 is a function that I am going to define the input, the file handler, so essentially the reference to the file that I just opened. This I do because then part 2 will also read the same file, so I can read it once in the main and then just pass it around. So now that I did it, I simply do def part 1 fr, which is just the input argument, the input file that I'm reading. What we do now, we iterate over the lines in this file, so we just say for line in fr. What we want to do for each line, I want to split it to get the first part, which is the action, so down, forward, or up, in the second part, which is just the number, so the units have to move. To do that, there is a method of the string, which is split. Line.split, what does it do? It gives us a list of the strings that compose this line. By default, split uses white spaces to decide when to split the line. So basically, these lines are already split by space, because there is the name of the action, a space, and then the number. If they weren't, for example, if we were using the letter zeta as a separator, we will just say this. So basically we pass to split what is the character on which we want to split the string. But in this case it's a space, so it's the default result. What I do with this list, I assign it to an array. This is action and value. What does this operation do? It simply takes the array of elements that I receive from this operation, which is always of length 2, because I know that this list has 2 elements, and assign them to the elements in this array. This I can do because I already know what is the size of this array, so I can directly assign it to 2 specific variables. Now, action is the value that we care about, is the action that we see, so basically a string, and val is a string that contains the amount of step on the line that we're reading. So essentially, for example, on this line, action will be down, val will be 9. But be careful, because since we're reading a file, val is a string containing the number, not a number. So what I do immediately is I say val is equal now to int of val, because again I know that val is an integer, so I convert it from a string to the actual number that represents it. Now I have to iterate over to basically process the content. To do that in Python 3.10, which is what I'm using, it came out on October 2021, so you may or may not have it. There is a match operator. It's not necessary, you can use ifs, but I don't see why I should use something that is not so old. I like something new and shiny, and this is an exercise, so it's done for fun. How does it work? We just say match, and we specify the values that are inside this this entry. So in this case, action and val. Then we have to specify the cases. So what we want to match this with. For example, one case, it will be case, and the action is up, and the value is just val. Even better, we give it a different name, we call it v. Not a perfect naming, but doesn't matter. Then we do the same for the case down. This indentation is broken. And then for the case forward, so down and forward. So now we have 3 blocks that at the moment are undefined, are just ellipses, that have to handle these up, down and forward cases. What do we have to do? We have to keep track of the position of the submarine. So the submarine starts at position 0, both in depth and on the horizontal axis, and then every action simply changes this value. So before the cycle, we have to initialize these 2 values, which are, let's call it depth, and also the horizontal value are initially 0 and 0. What happens when the submarine goes up? The depth decreases of 1. Sorry, decreases of the value that is in that line, so v. So we say the depth minus equal v. What happens when it goes down? The exact opposite. The depth is increased because it's going down of the value that is in v. What happens when it goes forward? This time the horizontal value is increased of the value that is in v. And that's it. What is the request from the problem? Is to get the multiplication of these 2 values after the whole file has been processed. So I go out of the for cycle and I return depth multiplied by hor, which is the horizontal value. Now I can just run it and do Python 3 Advent 2021 day 02, and nothing happens. Why? Did I save the file? Yes. Am I multiplying it? No, this must be something extremely stupid that is missing. This is date02.py. If the name, okay, here I'm missing 2 underscores. Okay, so it was never calling anything, and this is the solution to